You thought you'd prepared for it. You read the philosophy. You sat with the ideas. You told yourself you understood impermanence. You even practiced it in small ways, letting go of little things, rehearsing the thought that nothing lasts. But the moment it actually happens, the call, the silence, the empty chair, every framework you ever built evaporates. And you're just a child again, standing in the wreckage, wondering why the world didn't stop. Here's the costly mistake most people make in that moment. They think grief is something that happens to them, something they must weather and survive. They lie down inside it. They make a home in it. And without realizing it, the grief stops being an experience and becomes an identity. The truth nobody wants to say out loud is simple. You don't lose yourself because someone you love died. You lose yourself because you refuse to let go of the version of you that existed before they left. That is the idea I want to plant in you today. Loss is the test. Your relationship to the loss is the answer. And everything depends on whether you carry that loss as weight that builds you, or weight that buries you. Seneca once counseled a friend who had lost his son. And what he said was not what you'd expect. He didn't say the pain would pass. He didn't say time heals all wounds. He said the wise person feels the blow but does not collapse under it. The initial grief, the reflex, the way your body seizes when the news hits, that is natural. That is human. You are not a stone. You are not expected to be. But prolonged grief, the kind that eats months and years, the kind that becomes the story you tell about yourself, that is not something that happens to you. That is something you are doing. And the difference between those two things is where your freedom lives. Let me say that again because it matters. The difference between grief that visits and grief that moves in is not about how much you love the person. It's about what you decide the loss means about you. Most people, when they lose someone, make a silent vow. They vow to never fully recover, because recovering feels like betrayal. They think the depth of their suffering proves the depth of their love. They think if the pain fades, the love fades with it. So they grip the pain. They sharpen it daily. They rehearse the loss like a prayer. But here's what nobody tells you. That's not love. That's worship of the wound. There's a difference between honoring the dead and worshiping the death. Honoring means you carry what they gave you and you live better because of it. Worshipping means you build a shrine to what was taken and you kneel there forever. Which one do you think the person you lost would want for you? The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. Now let me tell you something that sounds cruel but is actually the kindest thing you'll hear. The person you lost was never yours. I don't mean they didn't love you. I don't mean the bond wasn't real. I mean they were never yours to keep. They belonged to life. Life lent them to you. You held them for a time. And now life has taken them back. That is not a tragedy. That is the terms of the agreement. The agreement was always temporary. You just weren't reading the fine print. Epictetus understood this. He said that when you love something, you should tell yourself that it is fragile, that it is lent, that it can be taken at any moment. Not to make yourself cold. Not to kill the love. But to love with open hands instead of clenched fists. Because here's what clenched fists do. They grip so hard they crush the thing they're holding. And when it's taken, they stay clenched. They can't receive anything new. They can't reach for anything. They just stay frozen in the shape of grasping. Open hands hurt more at first. Open hands feel the air on the palm where the person used to be. But open hands can still receive. Open hands can still give. Open hands are the posture of someone who has decided that love is not ownership. So the first practice is this. Stop pretending the loss was a violation of the rules. The loss was the rules. You were always living on borrowed time with this person. The fact that it ended doesn't mean it was broken. It means it was complete. That shift, from broken to complete, is everything. A broken thing needs fixing. A complete thing needs honoring. And honoring looks like this. You take what they taught you. You take the way they made you laugh. You take the stupid arguments and the quiet mornings and the way they looked at you when they thought you weren't paying attention. You take all of it. And you weave it into how you move through the world now. That is how the dead continue. Not as ghosts haunting your bedroom, but as texture in your character. The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They do the honoring for a week. Maybe a month. And then the ordinary days start. The days where the grief isn't dramatic, it's just dull. The days where you reach for your phone to text them and then remember. The days where you walk past their favorite restaurant and your chest tightens and you think, should be past this by now. You should not be past it. There is no past it. There is only through it and with it. The goal was never to stop feeling the loss. The goal was to stop letting the loss be the loudest voice in the room. Marcus Aurelius practiced something called memento mori. Remember that you must die. Most people hear that and think it's morbid. They think it's about dwelling on death. It's not. It's about dwelling on life so sharply that death becomes a clarity engine rather than a fear. When you remember that you must die, and that everyone you love must die, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop postponing the conversation. You stop holding back the words. You stop pretending you have forever. But here's the part nobody connects. Memento mori isn't just about your death. It's about the death of everything. Every relationship. Every phase of life. Every version of yourself. When you truly internalize that everything you see will one day be gone, you don't become numb. You become precise. You love like someone who knows the clock is ticking. You speak like someone who understands that silence is a luxury you might not have tomorrow. The people who survive loss without being destroyed by it are the people who were already living with this awareness before the loss came. Not because they were paranoid. Because they were honest. They knew the person they loved could be taken any day. And that knowledge didn't make them anxious. It made them present. It made them grateful. It made them say I love you more often and mean it more deeply. And when the loss came, they were shattered. Of course they were. But they were not surprised. And surprise is what makes grief feel like an ambush. When you've been living with open eyes, the grief still hurts, but it doesn't destabilize your entire worldview. Because your worldview already included this possibility. The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. Now let me tell you about something that was discovered in the worst conditions humans have ever faced. In concentration camps, people were stripped of everything. Their names. Their families. Their clothes. Their dignity. Everything external was taken. And yet, some people survived. Not the strongest physically. Not the ones with the best genetics. The ones who survived were the ones who had a why. A reason to keep going that had nothing to do with their circumstances. A meaning that could not be confiscated. The ones who gave up were the ones whose meaning was entirely external. Their meaning was their family, and when their family was gone, they had nothing. Their meaning was their status, and when their status was stripped, they collapsed. Their meaning was the future they had planned, and when that future was destroyed, they had no present. The ones who survived had an internal why. A sense that their life meant something regardless of what was happening to them. A conviction that how they faced suffering was itself a form of meaning. That their response to the worst conditions was the last freedom no one could take from them. Now you are not in a concentration camp. But you are in a situation where something external has been taken from you. And the question is the same. Do you have a why that outlasts the how? Do you have a reason to wake up tomorrow that has nothing to do with what you've lost? Do you have a foundation that was not built on the person who is now gone? Because here's the brutal truth. If your entire sense of meaning was built on one person, then the loss of that person is not just a loss. It is a structural collapse. It is the foundation giving way. And no amount of grieving, no amount of counseling, no amount of time will rebuild that foundation, because it was never a foundation. It was a dependency dressed up as love. Love is not dependency. Love is not making someone the center of your universe so that when they leave, the universe collapses. Love is two complete people choosing to share a path. And if you loved someone, truly loved them, then the love made you more of yourself, not less. The love expanded you. It didn't hollow you out. So if you're sitting in the wreckage right now, feeling hollowed out, feeling like half a person, I need you to hear this. That hollowness is not proof of your love. It is proof of where you placed your foundation. And foundations can be rebuilt. But not in the same place. Not on the same spot. You build a new foundation. One that includes the memory of what was lost, but one that is not dependent on it. The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. Here's where we get practical. Because I'm not interested in giving you philosophy that sounds beautiful and changes nothing. I want you to do something different tomorrow morning. And the next morning. And the one after that. First. When the grief hits, and it will hit, sometimes in waves, sometimes in trickles, sometimes in a single moment that knocks the wind out of you, do not fight it. Do not suppress it. Do not perform it either. Feel it. Let it move through you like weather. But do not set up camp in it. Do not start narrating it. Do not start building the story of your suffering. There is a difference between feeling pain and constructing an identity around pain. The first is human. The second is a trap. Second. When you catch yourself rehearsing the loss, when you find yourself replaying the last conversation, or imagining what you could have said differently, or scrolling through old messages, stop. Not because those memories are bad. But because you are not remembering. You are worshipping. You are going to the shrine again. And the shrine does not give you peace. The shrine gives you the illusion of closeness while draining the life from your present. Remember with gratitude instead. Remember what they gave you. Not what they took by leaving. Say their name with thanks, not with anguish. That shift, from anguish to gratitude, is the difference between being buried and being built. Third. Return to your body. Grief lives in the body. It lives in the tight chest and the shallow breathing and the tension in your jaw. You cannot think your way out of grief that has settled into your muscles. You have to move. You have to walk. You have to lift something heavy. You have to breathe deeply and deliberately. You have to remind your nervous system that you are still here, that the body still has work to do, that the world still makes demands of you. Do not let grief turn you into a mind floating in a dark room. Get back into the body. The body is your anchor. And the body doesn't lie. If you listen to it, it will tell you when you're wallowing and when you're genuinely processing. Wallowing feels heavy and sticky and circular. Processing feels like release. Learn the difference. Fourth, find your why. Not the one you had before. A new one. It might be smaller at first. It might be as simple as making coffee well. It might be showing up for work. It might be being present for someone else who is struggling. It doesn't need to be grand. It needs to be yours. It needs to be something that exists independently of what you've lost. Something that no death can take from you. Because if your why can be killed by the death of another person, it was never your why. It was their why that you were borrowing. Fifth, stop asking why this happened to you. That question is a trap. There is no why. There is only what now. The universe is not punishing you. The universe does not know your name. Things end because that is what things do. Rivers dry. Stars collapse. People leave. Not because you deserved it. Not because you failed. Because impermanence is the fundamental condition of existence. When you stop looking for a reason, you free up enormous energy. Energy you were spending on the search for meaning in the wrong place. Redirect that energy into building meaning in the right place. Your response. Your character. Your next action. The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. Now let me tell you what carrying weight that builds you actually looks like. It looks like someone who cries and then makes breakfast. It looks like someone who misses the person so much it physically hurts and then goes to work anyway. It looks like someone who speaks about the dead with warmth, not with that practiced, performative sadness that makes everyone around them uncomfortable. It looks like someone who is honest about the pain but not defined by it. It looks like strength. Not the kind that never breaks. The kind that breaks and then chooses to rebuild. Because the choice is the point. The breaking is automatic. The rebuilding is where you become who you are. You see, the Stoics didn't believe in avoiding pain. They believed in becoming the kind of person for whom pain is not the final word. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor who lost children, who faced plague and war and betrayal, who wrote to himself in the dark hours of the morning that he must be a human being first, that he must do what is in his nature, and that no one could prevent him from choosing well regardless of what the world did to him. He didn't write those things because he felt strong. He wrote them because he felt weak and chose strength anyway. That is what real strength is. Not the absence of feeling. The mastery of feeling. Not the elimination of grief. The refusal to let grief become your operating system. And here's the paradox that the Stoics understood and most people miss. The people who carry loss well, who feel it fully but refuse to be defined by it, are the people who love the most genuinely. Because their love was not based on need. Their love was not a contract that said you must stay so that I can be whole. Their love said, you are here, and I am grateful, and if you leave, I will carry what you gave me and I will keep going. That is a love that doesn't possess. That is a love that honors. The people who collapse completely, who never recover, who turn grief into a permanent identity, they are not the ones who love the most. They are the ones who needed the most. There's a difference. And if you're honest with yourself, you know which one you've been doing. The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. So here is what I want you to understand about where you are right now. You are in the space between what was and what will be. That space is agonizing. It feels like a void. It feels like the ground has been pulled out from under you. But it is also the most important space you will ever occupy. Because what you do in this space determines who you become. You can let the void swallow you. Many people do. They go dim. They go quiet. They stop reaching for life. They become a monument to what they lost. And monuments are dead things. They are beautiful and they are still and they are lifeless. Or you can let the void reshape you. You can let the loss strip away everything that was not essential. You can let it clarify what matters and what doesn't. You can let it make you ferociously present, ruthlessly honest, deeply grateful for what remains. The loss can be the thing that finally wakes you up. Not because it was a gift. It wasn't. It was a violation. But because you can choose to extract meaning from it even though it was not meaningfully given. That is your power. That is the power no one can take from you. The power to decide what the loss means. Not what it is. What it means. The loss is loss. The meaning is yours. And here's the thing about meaning. It's not something you find. It's something you forge. In the fire of what hurts. On the anvil of what remains. With the hammer of your own will. Nobody hands you meaning. Nobody hands you a reason to go on. You build it. Day by day. Action by action. Sometimes breath by breath. The people who survive loss without losing themselves are not the ones who had some secret. They are the ones who, in the moment when everything fell away, made a choice. A small, quiet, almost invisible choice. The choice to remain themselves. The choice to not let the loss overwrite their identity. The choice to be the person who loved and lost and is still here, still standing, still choosing. That choice is available to you right now. Not in some abstract future when the pain has faded. Right now. In this moment. In the wreckage. In the void. You can choose to be someone who carries this weight with purpose. You can choose to let it make you deeper rather than smaller. You can choose to let it connect you to every other human being who has ever loved and lost, which is to say, every human being who has ever lived. Because here is the final truth that the Stoics lived and died by. You are always going to lose everything. Every person you love. Every moment you cherish. Every version of yourself that you think is the final one. All of it. Temporary. All of it. Lent. And the question was never whether you would lose it. The question was always who you would be when you did. So who are you? Are you someone who is destroyed by what was taken? Or are you someone who is built by what remains? Are you someone who worships the wound? Or are you someone who honors the dead by living? The weight is not the problem. What you do with the weight is. Carry it well. And stay disciplined.